Welcome back, everybody, to the Halifax 57 Rescue Show. With me today is our chief engineer for the Halifax rebuild, Scott Knox in ARPRI, Ontario. How's it going today, Scott?
Good. I don't know if you can hear in the back, but we've got some fine gentlemen helping out. They're hammer forming some flap ribs today. So we're making good progress.
Good. Well, okay, so let's just jump right into the program. And folks, we like to show you a little bit of historic background to all of our adventures around the world saving Halifax bombers. And today, we've got this rare interview with Albert Wallace, who was a Bomber Command veteran, and he was one of the lucky ones, if you can imagine that. He was shot down and survived his bomber shoot down, ended up a prisoner of war of the Germans, and was actually in Stalag Luft III, which is the Great Escape escapade of all the POWs escaping. Now, Albert didn't get out of the camp on the Great Escape, but wonderful comments on this momentous occasion of the escape from Stalag Luft III. So we'll show you that, and then on with the adventure of NA 337. And today we have the excerpt from our grand adventure where Tony Little, rear gunner of an RCAF Halifax, and Jeff Jeffrey, pilot of an RCAF Halifax, in Norway with us. They just had to come, and they were part of the team, talking about the historic last flight of NA 337 when she landed on the lake in 1945. So welcome to the show, and let's get started, and we'll show you history in the making.
Okay, my name is Albert Wallace, and I served in the Air Force as a mid-upper gunner. And on our 15th mission over Germany, we got hit by flak. We bailed out over the Ruhr Valley. 5 of our crew survived the jump, and 2 went in with the plane.
So how did you feel when you realized the plane had been hit and it was going to go down? What were your feelings going through your head at that point?
Well, I was very confused because the plane was on fire, and it was a trying time. Cherry Cemetery, and we carried the coffins in, and then back into the truck, and off we went to an air base for the night. From there, we went to Stalag Luft, which was an interrogation camp. I was there for about 10 days, and then off to Stalag Luft III North Camp, which was my home for the next 2 years.
So give me a typical day. Wake up in the morning, what's a typical day in the camp?
Typical day was up and out on a Pell to be counted. Just depended on how good we were, whether we got counted once, twice, or 3 or 4 times. But we had sports activities. Food was limited. Germans weren't very generous, but the Red Cross really came through. The Red Cross really, I guess, saved us from becoming wrecks, physical wrecks.
What was the best thing about the camp?
The best thing? Well, the best thing was the comradeship of all the guys. Well, you had lots of friends there, and you'd go walk around the circuit and you'd talk, and you'd partake in, we had ball teams, football teams, all kinds of sporting activities. And, it was interesting. I mean, we were captured and we were there and we weren't going anywhere. A lot of fellows, there was great escape activities going on all the time. And undercover, of course. It's very interesting. Pardon? I never tried to escape, no. I lived in the tunnel room in Block 104 where the tunnel for the Great Escape went out. I lived in there for about 3 months. And it was a very hectic time because the tunnel was in operation a good deal of the time when the coast was clear, and you could never get back into the room. So I decided I was going to move another block, which I did, for a little peace and quiet.
In the movie, they show that they cut the tunnel underneath the stove.
Yes, this tunnel was right under the stove. Yeah, they lifted the stove off and up with the tile top and straight down 30-foot steps on the wall.
How come the Germans couldn't find these things?
No, it wasn't that easy. Some very clever men in camp, and the way they concealed the tunnels was just incredible. I mean, the Germans were always searching throughout the entire day. The ferrets walked around, and they had a big long screwdriver with a point. And they were always poking and prodding and digging and looking for tunnels.
So, Carl, the people who watch the videos probably ask and wonder about, what it was like to be on a mission. Now, neither you nor I have experienced that event, but I can recall my father, who was on Lancasters, bad word, but anyways, he was on Lancasters, and I remember a couple of his recollections. I mean, as typical for vets, they didn't really talk about the war very much, but Dad did talk about remembering on mission seeing what he described as popcorn. So you'd be flying along at the pitch dark, and all of a sudden there'd be a flash, and it was almost like a piece of popcorn popping. And that happened frequently, especially over certain areas of the approach to a target, where you're either getting hit by flak or maybe night fighters, and the aircraft would literally just blow up. And Dad remembers vividly thinking that every time he saw one of these flashes, 7 men had probably just perished. This was something that stayed with me, till today, and no doubt it affected him deeply. Another thing I remember him talking about, he was a bomb aimer, so he said it was so cold. The Lancasters and to a degree, the Halifaxes were leaky, and you're talking minus 30, minus 40, minus 50 degrees at altitude. Yeah. And the cold air that comes in through all the gaps around the turrets and whatnot, he said it was just wild how cold it was. And you're in this thing for 8 bloody hours, man, in the pitch black. And he said the noise was just unbelievable. The roar of the Merlins in the case of the Lanks, was just deafening. These aircraft did not have a lot of creature comforts. Add on top of that the threat of being shot down. You're on pins and needles the whole time. Just so stressful. It's so hard, even when you read the accounts, firsthand accounts. It's so hard to get your head wrapped around it. And that's why listening to these vet accounts, the ones that we have on file, is so important. It gives you an idea of what it was like. Sure.
And Scott, you see it on a personal level with your father, a Canadian flying in the, he's in the RCAF, flying with an RAF squadron. And I was researching the bomber crews I would go to the reunions, and I spent many late nights with these guys going over stuff, and they were sharing precious memories, maybe not nice memories, of what happened to them. And folks, you need to know this. And because you haven't studied Bomber Command crews for years, the chances of finishing your 30 combat trips was about 25%. 75% of the bomber crews did not finish their 30 plus combat missions.
Case in point, we have a volunteer here, Neil Richardson. I want to speak more about him in subsequent episodes, but he was a young boy. His father was killed on operations, and he was only 7. The gentleman who owns a hangar right beside us here, his uncle was killed on operations. You know, the chances of coming back were just so low, and people just don't appreciate how dangerous it was. And if I recall the stats, it was more dangerous to be in Bomber Command than it was to be, say, an artilleryman, or an infantryman, say. The chances of coming back were far lower.
Yeah. And so the bottom line is these young airmen, average age 22, knowing those odds, they still went out and fought for our freedom. And the night fighters could kill you, the flak could kill you, the bad weather could kill you. There were so many things that could have snuffed out those lives, and they never gave up. And remember, the Canadians flew the Halifax the most of all of the heavy bombers. So that's why we're here. And now let us go on to the NA337 adventure. We've got Tony Little and Jeff Jeffrey talking about the final last flight of Halifax NA337 in 1945, and just before it ditched on the lake, and that airplane became the object of our affection and got us our first big, huge recovery as a tribute to our veterans. So let's continue on with this adventure.
To a system that would take care of the forces at the same time, and on this place or an area of the plane which was very solid, and that was the frame in the wing. And the wing itself is a very strong construction, so that was a place that we had to put our lifting.
Sure. So I know that we have the 2 main spars. We have the forward main spar that runs down through here in the center section, and we have the rear main spar that's back here that runs basically parallel to it.
Yep.
And we'll be able to lift utilizing those 2 main members.
Yep. Our lifting device is gripping through in between these 2 engines.
Yes, the 2 inner engines, right?
Inner engines, and is lifting, and the point of lifting will be in the main spar. And you have a secondary lifting point in the aft spar, and that is the way that we will try to lift it. Then it will we have to control the lifting force, so we don't lift more than we expect this beam to the main spar to stand for.
So this is the type of aircraft, a Halifax, that was used on the night of April 23rd, 24th for a supply drop in this area.
That's right, Tony. The aircraft flying from Torret Rushton in England came in on a track here, circled and dropped their supplies to the Norwegian underground at Mikkelsberget, then flew on a track back towards England, obviously. Was unfortunate enough to fly right over Minnesund, which is where the bridge is that goes over the narrow part of Lake Myosa. There was an anti-aircraft battery that that was mounted at the bridge, and unfortunately the aircraft battery engaged the aircraft, hit the starboard wing, starboard engine caught fire. The captain, or the pilot, turned north and flew up the lake. I think probably up here somewhere he lost another engine, and at that time made the decision to ditch his aircraft or land his aircraft in the lake itself. Turning, actually went over the city of Hamar, and then turned south again to go into the wind, which was the right thing to do.
Yes, it came back because it had the southerly wind.
Yes.
It was landing against the southerly wind, and we could see all the small parts which is ripped off in the touchdown.
Yes.
We have in one position, more or less, and the airplane is 100 meters northwest of that position. That means that after the plane had ditched, it was floating.
It was
back in the winds again.
Driven back by the wind,
yes,
past the touchdown point.
Yes.
So it floated after the main
yes,
body touched down. Ah, okay.
So it was not quite sure of how could the plane be in one position and all the other parts in
yes,
the other position. And
yes.
Then we get information about that, and every piece went. We knew
and it makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense for us.
Yes. Huh. Well, we had many varied reports of what happened and how they touched down, but we're here today, and now we're gonna retrieve everything.
Mm-hmm.
Huh? Good.
Well, there you have it, folks, another program. And as we sign off here, let us, I'll hand off to Scott any feelings, any comments that you want to make. Next week, we'll be having a show about a bomber pilot, Joe English, and more on the Halifax NA 337 recovery. But Scott, have you got any final comments for our folks out there?
Yeah, we're trying to grow our social media presence. So I ask you that you please like and subscribe the video, share on your social media, and if you can support us financially, that'd be brilliant. This all costs money, and there's always an overhead associated with our operations. And most importantly, we want to grow. We want to expand. We want to get other shops involved. And to do that, we need more resources. So first off, like and subscribe. Secondly, see if you can support us financially. Or if you live in nearby one of our operations, please reach out and you can help us in person if you wish. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Scott. And so, folks, we'll be coming back to you next week with another program, the Halifax 57 Rescue Show. So stay tuned. Every Wednesday, we're going to hit you with some more pilgrimage and adventure for the Halifax. See you next time. Bye-bye.